Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Door to Deceit. I'm your host Ash, and I'm happy you're here. I'm so thankful for the support. Y'all already know the drill, and I hope you enjoy this episode. I'm gonna try to get through this one as quickly as I can because I have been dealing with TMJ pain this week, and if you don't know what TMJ is, just know your girl's jaw is fucking tired. It's tired and it's sore. Okay, so we're just gonna move forward. Anyway, our story this week, combined with that pain, almost made me lose it and punch the nearest man near me. So let's get into it. Our story begins in Princeton, Massachusetts with Vanessa Marcotte, the only child of John and Rosanna Marcotte. Which that info alone broke me because now her parents have no one, but I digress. Vanessa graduated summa cum laude with a bachelor's in communications from Boston University in 2011. She jumped right into the professional world and she worked at WordStream, Vistaprint, and finally Google in New York City. Now, this is the part that actually gets me. Vanessa lived in New York full time, but every 2 months she would visit her mom and her aunt, and they both lived in Princeton, Massachusetts, the place of her murder. Princeton is a small town. There's about 4,000 people in it, so if you watch True Crime on ID or wherever, then you already know how they would have talked about this town. Oh, it's so quiet and safe. You never expect this here. People just left their doors unlocked. You know the drill. But baby... I could live behind the gates of heaven and I'm still locking my door. But that's just me. That's just me. Anyway, it was around 1 p.m. on Sunday, August 7th, 2016, when 27-year-old Vanessa left her mom's home for a jog. Her intentions were to get a jog in, chill with her mom a little bit more, and then return to New York by commuter bus that evening. Now, unfortunately, she never returned back to her mother's home. After several hours had passed and there was no sign of her, her mom reported her disappearance to the police. There hadn't been a crime like this in Princeton for the past 30 years, so the police immediately started searching for her. By 8:20 p.m., police dogs caught her scent as they searched the route that Vanessa ran. The dog led them off the secluded road about 60 yards into some pretty thick grass where police discovered her body. She was less than a mile away from her mom's home. Just let that sit for a second. Not even a mile from safety, and her life was brutally taken from her. That's so sick. But of course, as it does, it gets sicker. She was completely unclothed. Her legs, hands, and face were burned. Her headphones and cell phone were both missing, and despite police searching for them, they couldn't find them. Police did find one of her shoes. It was charred with fire, and it was lying next to her. During the investigation, police discovered that the killer used gasoline as an accelerant to try and destroy the body and any evidence he left behind. After an autopsy, it was determined that Vanessa's cause of death was strangulation. In fact, her throat was crushed. She did seem to fight back, and there was DNA found under her nails, and she had a broken nose. Because she was found naked, they, of course, did search for evidence of sexual assault, and they found some. They found DNA, but when police ran it through their database, nothing came up. Which, side note, okay, how do y'all feel about the idea of everyone having their DNA put into the system? Now, personally, I think it's a good idea. Like, they have the DNA of known criminals, but everybody has their first crime, which means the potential to commit a crime is right there every day for everyone, which, I mean, obviously, right? But I feel like if the DNA was already in the system, you can get these bastards like the one that killed Vanessa off the streets a lot sooner, because when they run the DNA, boom, they got you. Like, there's no getting away, girl. I just feel like, at birth, give the girls a little swab. When you go and get your license, give the girls a little swab. Like, I don't know. I guess obviously it could be used, in the wrong way, which everything can be used in the wrong way. But baby, y'all tell me how y'all feel about it in the poll, because I personally am team swab every damn body. Because if you do something to me, baby, I want you caught or shot or both. So I don't know. Anyway, there was a witness to Vanessa's final moments before encountering her killer. Now, apparently she stopped at the Mountainside Market for a drink, and she was last seen alive walking and talking on her cell phone. Now, this was after 1 p.m. A second witness also reported seeing a dark SUV following her. They said they saw it turn around and follow her again down the road. That same SUV was also seen parked on the road in the area where she was killed in, at around the same time that she was killed. So, her case ended up getting a ton of attention at the time because another woman in similar circumstances had been killed recently in Queens, New York. The cases were actually not connected though, because DNA evidence found that that woman's killer was someone else and they found him a year later. But because of the similarities, the public turned their attention to both cases and they were just hoping that there was not a serial killer in the midst, like brewing up. But Vanessa's case attracted so much attention that FBI profilers were commenting publicly on her case and saying that she was more than likely attacked at random by a stranger, and that they felt that the killer probably lived or worked in or frequented areas around Princeton. And baby, they were right. More than 6 months after Vanessa's murder, the Worcester County DA released more information about the investigation. He stated that based on the DNA evidence and witness statements, the suspect they were looking for was a Hispanic male in his late 20s to 30s. He was average height, athletic build, and he had short or shaved hair. He would also have had injuries on his upper body from Vanessa defending herself from his attack. Police opened up a 24-hour tip line asking for info from the public, and they ended up with over 1,300 tips, which is so amazing. I love when communities come together, and I hope that the majority of those were real fucking tips and not people being fucking annoying and weird. By April of 2017, the DA announced that Angelo Ortiz, a 31-year-old husband and father, was arrested on April 14th. He was placed on a $10 million bail and charged with aggravated assault, assault with intent to rape, and a murder charge. Now, his name is not pronounced Colin, but baby, I'm Southern and he's shit, so Colin it is. Colin's mother is a cop in Puerto Rico, where he was born and raised until he moved to Worcester, a town 20 minutes away from Princeton, in May of 2016. So this motherfucker didn't even live there for no time at all before he decided to become a fucking murderer. He lived there with his wife, her 2 kids, and his brother. His immediate family and a biological child still lived in Puerto Rico. Now, on June 23rd, 2017, Colin was indicted by a grand jury, and by the 26th, he had pled not guilty with his lying ugly ass. The judge ordered for him to be held without bail, as he should. So, how did they catch him? According to record, a state police trooper on patrol in Worcester saw Colin and realized not only did he match the description of the suspect, but he also was driving an SUV like the one witnesses saw. The trooper wrote the plate number down and followed up on the lead with a trip to Colin's house the next day with another officer and a Spanish-speaking interpreter. Now, he was thinking ahead, baby. He was thinking smart. Because he could have easily played that, oh girl, I don't speak English card, and then he would have been tipped off that the cops know what the tea is, girl. So shout out to that trooper, girl. Now, Colin, being the genius that he is, voluntarily provided them DNA. He signed the paperwork saying he understood and everything. Now, the police, of course, ran it against the DNA that they found under Vanessa's fingernails, and they got a match. Now, later on, Colin tried to claim that the language barrier, with him like being a native Spanish speaker, it led him to give them the DNA sample. So technically, he didn't give them voluntary consent. He claimed, now these are his words, not mine, 2 big white officers showed up with someone else who spoke a version of Spanish that was strange to me. Now, girl. All right, Colin. All right. On the strength of that, Colin's lawyers actually ended up filing a motion to try and suppress the DNA evidence, a motion that the judge thankfully denied. Like, I'm sorry, are you dumb? You think anybody gives a flying fuck about what you're saying when the results of everything led us to a rapist / arsonist / murderer? Bitch, please. Like, at this point, when they have this DNA, this bastard has been running around living free and clear for almost a year after ending the life of someone he didn't even fucking know. For him and anybody else to think that that was gonna work was crazy to me. And to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, this is how I know I could never be a judge, baby, because I promise you I'm not being unbiased. Like, I literally do not care how the evidence was obtained as long as it's real evidence and you did not plant it. Because guess the fuck what, girl? You did the crime and you need to do the time. Like, I don't think you should be able to get away with stuff just because your lawyer can spin fancy words around. Like, it would be giving Judge Judy Strict up in my courtroom, babes. You're going to jail. Period. Anyway, it was found that Colin worked for a third-party contractor for FedEx, and he made deliveries in and around the Princeton area. So this is why he knew the area so well. According to his neighbors, okay, get into it, he was perverted. Like, niggas knew... My bad, y'all. I'm black. People knew that he was a pervert. And apparently he often made sexual comments to women within the neighborhood. I feel like they should have formed a neighborhood watch and whooped his ass. But girl, that's just me, and y'all know I'm violent. So moving on, a former female co-worker also added that he would make rude and crude and nasty comments in Spanish about her and other women to his co-workers. So it's just giving disgusting, ugly misogynist. Like, gotcha. Just yuck. I must say, I just find it very interesting that he couldn't speak English, but he worked at FedEx reading those English-ass packages because he claimed he couldn't read it either, but period. The police revealed that the day of the murder, a witness passing by the area Vanessa was found in saw Colin outside of his black SUV with the hood up. He was talking on his cell phone. It was about 2:45 at that point, and cell phone records do prove that he was indeed in that area at that time. Now, Vanessa left her mom's house at around 1:15. The witness passed Colin's car again at around 2:05, but at that point the hood was down and nobody was around. Vanessa's phone data showed that her phone was shut off at 2:11, which authorities presume that was near her exact time of death. To this day, it's still not known why he was even in the area because he was not working the day of the murder. And then when police asked him if he knew her, he said no, and that he couldn't recall if he was in Princeton on the day of her murder. However, on the day of the crime, at 2:35, he bought $5 worth of gas from a store only a few miles from the crime scene, the same gas he would later use to try and destroy evidence. Now, you would think that this would be an open and shut case with all this evidence, right? Wrong. Okay, he sat in the courtroom with his arched ass eyebrows for years, dragging the trial out until 2022, where he eventually took a plea deal. He pled guilty to deprivation of life of the second degree and to a robbery charge for stealing her phone. Vanessa's father actually passed away 10 days before the final hearing, but her remaining family agreed to the plea deal. Her family also started a foundation in her name that helps teach women self-defense in an effort to prevent this from happening to anyone else. And to be honest, y'all, I do not blame them one bit for agreeing to that plea deal. Like, they would have to keep dealing with and reliving the crime every single day. They lost her in 2016. They found who did it in 2017. And for this to still have been going on in 2022, 6 years? Baby, that is disgraceful. And our legal system needs to do so much better in so many different ways, but my God. Colin was eventually sentenced to 20 years for the robbery and life with the possibility of parole after 25 years for the deprivation charge. Since it's federal, though, he will have to serve every day of both the 20 and 25 years, so he'll be 81 years old by the time he's eligible for parole. Now, in my opinion, I still don't think they should let that motherfucker out. Let him rot and die in jail because, girl, that shit you did not have to fucking do. Like, you really did not have to do. And I hate to even say it like this, but even if it was just about the sex, you got a woman at home. Like, why are you over? Like, what is wrong with you? There's something wrong with you fundamentally, and you don't need to be let out of jail. Point blank, period. Without getting too into it, keep that nigga up in there. Straight like that. Like, I'm sorry. I know I try to be a little professional on these, but it's cases like this that just grind my gears, dude. Like, it's bad enough when people kill people they know, but when you kill somebody you don't know for literally no reason at all, it just blows me because, girl, what is wrong with you? Like, and then what really pissed me off about this case. One of Colin's family members decided to describe him as a good son, a good brother, and a very good person. I'm sorry, what? See, this is why people make me fucking sick. Because I understand that that's your family, so I'm gonna let you make it on the good brother and the good son comment. But for you to say he's a very good person, not just a good person, but very good, bitch, electric chair. Because a good person doesn't see someone minding their own fucking business and decide, let me go rape and kill them. That's not a fucking thing. For whichever family member that was that said that, girl, fuck you and him too. And like, oh, it's just such a slap in the face to her family that has nothing and no one now. No more birthdays, no more Christmases, no wedding to walk Vanessa down the aisle for, no grandkids, nothing. Your good son, your good brother, your very good person violated and ended the life of an actual good person. A young woman on a jog. She was visiting her aging mom so she doesn't get lonely. And she knows that her daughter still fucking loves her. And if your family member had actually been a very good person, bitch, he would have been at home with his wife. And they're not one, but two fucking kids. Ooh, on my soul, whoever said that would have had to see me, and baby, I would have flew to Puerto Rico to make it happen. I'm like, ooh, fixing your mouth to say that stupid ass shit. A very good person. Girl, please. Now, I will say that he had no criminal history in Massachusetts at the time until this happened, and he also had no criminal history when he was in Puerto Rico where he grew up. But that does not mean that he did not commit crimes. Now, when someone commits a sex crime of this nature, it is typically not their first time at the rodeo, okay? Usually, they started with peeping in windows and doors, which hardly gets convictions because who the fuck thinks they're getting peeped on? And usually, it goes unnoticed, or they do it in a discreet way so they can avoid detection. Now, from peeping, they typically move on to sexual assault, sexual harassment, maybe even panty raiding, that type of thing. And, you know, the assault and shit like that, that typically happens on sex workers. And they're probably not going to report the crime because the crime was committed while they were also committing a crime. So a lot of murderers feel like it's safe. There was a killer called the Green River Killer. He killed pretty much nothing but prostitutes, if I'm not mistaken. It's because nobody gives a fuck when stuff happens to them. Nobody gives a fuck if they go in and report a crime because a lot of times the police take it as, oh, well, that's just, you know, charges to the game. You're a prostitute, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sorry. I feel like they should have checked a little bit deeper because after that, they typically escalate from just committing those sexual assaults and stuff. They escalate to where he's at now, where you're murdering your victims after you assault them. And I'm sorry, I'm not a professional, okay? I will say that, but I personally do not think that this was his first time. And I don't think that this was his first crime at all, period. And if it was, baby, that is a hell of a way to jump off the porch. I will tell you that. Oh my God. I don't know. This one was tough for me because it's so senseless. And to be fair, most murders are senseless, but it's something so sick to me about being hunted and harmed just because some psycho felt like they wanted to make their fantasy real that day. And you just so happened to get, you know, casted as the starring fucking role. Like, oof. Y'all be careful out there. And especially my ladies, please stay vigilant. But you know what? I'm out of here. I want to thank y'all for listening, and I hope that you are leaving having learned some lessons, and if not, baby, please go back and listen again. All right? I will see y'all next time, and hey, do not forget to lock that door behind me. You never know what could come crawling in.